Hello, hello everyone, and welcome to another week of Wake Up Call. As you can see, I still have my Christmas tree up, so I figured why not put that beautiful tree in frame because it's the last few days that we'll have it up. And I have another guest for you this week, but I wanted to forewarn you, just in case you're listening to audio only. We were having multiple tech issues. Actually, we did an interview, and then Heidi, who you're going to meet in a minute, her video went out, and after we did the recording, I'm like, there's no footage of her. So then we did the episode another day, and I didn't realize that my mic was not even working on this other program that I normally don't use, that Heidi uses, just so we could ensure that the video was captured properly and then my audio was out. But luckily, I'm not speaking that much, and I didn't want to make poor Heidi do a third interview. So don't mind that. Just pay attention to her. Her audio is fine. And then I'll be back next week. I'll be taking over the show again and back to hosting it myself. It's been an interesting week on X for me. I've had an influx of what appears to be bots, maybe trolls of some sort, and I've just sort of been disconnecting because I have to protect my peace right now, okay? And I know that there are some of you who have sent me messages over the past few weeks that I haven't gotten to and all that stuff. So once next week rolls around, I'll be back on the horse, but I feel like we've been a little bit disconnected because I've had the holidays and then I've had two guests on back to back, but I will be back and accessible next week. So enjoy this episode with Heidi Luv, and I will see you soon.
Hi, we're back.
Hello, Heidi. We are back, and for round 2 of Wake Up Call, we had a little bit of a tech glitch, and who knows what it was, but
well,
but
we're here.
We're here. Heidi is an ex-Mormon, and as you know, I've been going down the Mormon rabbit hole for many, many months, and she is very much in the know. So we're going to be exploring a little bit about that today and chatting it up.
Yes, I'm so glad to be here. I'm happy to do it again. Like I said, I had so much fun last time. I didn't even care, but it's annoying for your production. I understand that as well. But,
and also, it's like towards the end of our conversation, we were discovering how many episodes we could go with this stuff. So to have something new and fresh, it's like, it doesn't even matter because we could talk about this stuff all day,
every day for probably until we pass away and somebody else could carry it on. And that's the real part of it that people say, because a little about me, I still live in Utah. I'm an ex-Mormon. I'm a genealogical Mormon. Like my family was a part of the Mormon church's beginnings. And you don't leave when you're that far in, but I did. I said, that's enough. I don't think this is Jesus, like real Jesus. And I don't know what's going on over here, but like, this doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't correlate with the Bible. Like all these things that you have to start questioning, and I never did. I just, why would I, right? That's what my grandma did and my great grandma. I mean, that's what you do, but if I had my choice and I wasn't scared, like if I had no family involved, I would have ran out of the temple the day I got in it. So.
Do you think that that's how they kind of control, is through lineage, through family and
secrecy?
Secrecy.
Mm-hmm. Well, because once you get in there, you've already a couple things. Most of the time, your family is all there staring at you, right? Like while you're doing all this stuff, and they have expectations of you, whether it be for a mission or a marriage. Like, let's be honest, you're there for a purpose, and everybody's looking at you. You're front stage and center. You are required to do some things. And could you leave? Sure. Did they hold me there with a gun? No. Did I feel like I could leave? No way. No way. And I felt very creepy.
Yeah. But you were lucky because you married a guy, what you told me on the last episode, who left when he was a teenager. So you were lucky to pick somebody who had already done that. And then you said your mom was another person who kind of escaped. So the people, like, even though the rest of your family disowned you, basically, the two most important people in your life had already done what you were walking through. So you were kind of blessed in that way.
Oh, I am more than so much blessed. Like, my mom literally breaks down and cries when she talks about this, because not only did her leaving and the little seeds she planted help me to go forth and see the truth in my husband's words later, but also she saved her son and me, which is her children, all her children. My brother's passed away since from addiction. And we talk about this very openly on here. And then I went forward to get all of my children out. So our posterity is clean. Like, and that is like, whoa, you know, and it's hard here. Like, my kids, you know, come home yesterday. I had a talk with my 11-year-old. Mom, I found one more girl that's not a Mormon. Like, isn't that cool? She's just a Christian like us. And that makes me so sad. You know, that's what we live with. We are very much alone, you know? Yeah. So, and you choose it. People say, well, you know, but nobody knows about the cult until they're in the cult, like, and out, right? You don't think so when you're in it. I would have told you were crazy. I'm like, no. Yeah. I thought this was good. And I thought this was about God. And that is why I coined myself the Mormon Church's ex-girlfriend, because you lied to me. I am now your nightmare. You don't lie to women unless you want a nightmare. I'm sorry. You don't.
Yep. The scorned woman is a real thing. I'm like that. We kind of touched on it last episode, or last time we tried to have an episode about being an ex-member of Hollywood. And then, you know, I sometimes have people on X who like Google my name and they're like, oh, you know, we're digging up all this stuff. I'm like, how do you think I got to this point? How do you think I had this awakening, is actually being part of a cult, sort of unknowingly, and then towards the end knowingly, and then breaking free of it. But sometimes that's what you have to do to have these awakenings. And then that's what happens. You become the system's worst nightmare. And I also mentioned it last time we talked about my brother, who's Muslim. Well, he fought in Afghanistan. And that's how he became Muslim, is because, like, he saw the opposite side of things, saw that we were there for the wrong reasons, saw that we were being lied to, and then he went to the opposite extreme. So that's how that all happened, you know?
Well, and like you said, and by the way, my son, which is hilarious, I came home and he said, how was your show today? And I said, oh, this girl named Kristen, and we talked and it was great. And she's kind of famous, you know, and he watches a lot of reality shows and like old reality shows. He knows you. He's 17. God. Yeah. He's like, I know her. That's amazing. He was all excited. I thought that was
my show probably was before he was even born. How old?
But he loves it. He watches all the Jersey Shores and all the, you know what I mean? Everything. So yeah, he said that you were cool, quote unquote, that you're cool. So. 17. 18 now. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was probably 2 when my
right.
Oh yeah.
But it still circles out, and like they love Jersey Shore or other shows like that they still watch. And you know, I don't gatekeep them. It's silly. I'm like, you're old, you know, like whatever. Your
sort of your programming's in there.
Yeah, and I tell him
good, you know, with you as their mom.
Right. Yeah, he knows. And, you know, like ultimately, I just always tell them, look, all this stuff is fake. And none of these people believe what they say they believe. And you can't trust what they say. And they just are like these conspiratorial children. Like the worst was when they were doing like the whole about Columbus. And I was like, wow. And my son goes, don't do that, Mom. Because my kid was like 9 and he's like, don't tell her that stuff yet. And I was like, all right, whatever. He gets after me because he doesn't want me to ruin, you know, until she's old enough to understand.
Well,
like,
I didn't know. I didn't, like, my older daughter's 3, the younger one's 1. So they're both still really young. But my 3-year-old, I was at the point where I'm like, okay, the Santa Claus thing.
Yep.
Do we, because that's like the first conspiracy. You know, I remember being 5 in kindergarten saying, Santa ain't real. Santa's not real. And it's funny because, you know, 35 years later, I'm here saying the same stuff. And then I'm like, but I want her to have that experience, but I don't want to lie to her either. So it's like, I wrote on the presents from Santa, but I'm like, is that really what I want to do? I don't know. She's still young enough where I can.
Yeah.
Kind of
She's probably not looking at the tag. Yeah.
Or we could just have fun with it and play kind of pretend Santa, but kind of like let her know that it's not really real too.
What I said this year was, you know, Santa was real. He was the patron saint of prostitutes. And we had this conversation in the middle of Christmas and my kids were like, oh my gosh, Mom. I'm like, this is true. This is a true story. And they just were like, oh my gosh. And I said, well, that's why things were going down the chimney. And for people that don't know, he would throw coins down the chimneys of women that wanted to get married that didn't have a dowry. And so he would give them a gift and throw it down the chimney. And so they could go get married and not be derelict women.
Wow.
So there's fun stuff that you can play with. And, you know, we had those little conversations, but ultimately, I'm sure they've figured all that out. They're all old, you know.
Yeah.
They know from school. But this is also much like Santa Claus, what we're going to talk about today, because everything is fake. Yeah. Every single piece of Mormon history that we know is likely very skewed or untrue. And especially when we get to genealogy, which is what you wanted to talk about. And I think it's fantastic because you don't know anything about a person until you know about where they came from, whether that be their bloodline family or like an adopted family. Who you're raised by, like what you said about my son right before this, matters. It matters. And so we have to look like what is going on that these people, you know, are around other people that seem to be very influential when they're supposed to be dumb farmers from nowhere. Weird story, you know? Right. And so we get into the very beginnings. As I kept researching, I kept thinking, well, I'll go a little further back and I'll go a little further back. And eventually I ended up at the dumb Mayflower. Not that it's dumb for real, but just like this was dumb because literally I had to go back to the beginning of America. So I was like, this is wild, right? I don't know. It's strange that it would even have any significance to Mormonism because, you know, I always heard they don't know where the parents came from and that's it. So, some like random obscure story. And they do know. They don't like to tell you, but they know. And so, yeah, we get back to the Mayflower where, you know, the Mayflower Society, the first family societies, these are all the first, I dare say, secret societies of America. And, you know, Joseph Smith qualifies to be in those because he had 7 relatives directly on the Mayflower. That's weird. And then, you know, as I read all these really old books, for a lot of people that don't know me, I get all these old books in Utah because old people die here. Their kids don't know what the significance is because nobody wants this story out. So nobody knows anything. And I go buy them all. And it's fantastic. Like this one. It's called Mormons and Gentiles. Okay. And this is an old book. It's not quite as old as some of the others I have, but nevertheless has some amazing information in it. And when we look at the history of everything, when you're reading this old stuff, you step back and go, wait, that's not what they told me. Right. And again, then I'm the scorned girlfriend. Mm-hmm. So one of the stories in one of these books was something about his family member, which, by the way, the paternal line hails not from New York. Palmyra is where they always say Joseph Smith came from. Palmyra, New York, or they'll sometimes say, you know, they moved around a couple times. So they'll give a little other couple things, but it's never, ever in Massachusetts. And that is directly where his paternal line comes from. His father's side is very prominent. They're not dumb farm people. His uncle was actually his grandpa, Stephen. So it would have been his dad's dad, was actually like rounding up everybody to start the Boston Tea Party. And he's a selectman of Salem, Topsfield, Massachusetts. So I always thought it was weird when I found out like all this. I thought, man, you would think they would want to put this front and center because they're very patriotic.
Exactly. And like breaking free from the crown because they all came from England, correct?
Rebels. Yeah. They're like, yay. Yeah.
So they're breaking away from the crown, but it seems like there's the Freemasonic aspect to it all. So it's almost like this whole idea and this notion that the United States is birthed off of freedom and breaking off from the crown might be fraudulent, and it might be fraudulent through this.
Not only this, but through Canada as well, but absolutely 100%. And if we look at the old books that old people told us to read, right? Like conspiracy books and different things, it's strange to me that it didn't really catch on because we know about Jacobites. If you ask most people if they're involved in history, they kind of know a little bit about Jacobites and the Stuart dynasty and all of these different things. Like they might know a little bit about it, but they're not really 100% sure, right? They're like, I don't know. They know what the Illuminati is. That definitely goes into it, but they don't really know how it can. There's like this weird disconnect where it misses each other. So we're like, okay, well, what is going on in one of these books where it said that they had to hide from the queen and the king? And I thought, what? What are they hiding? Why are they hiding from what did they do? Like, are they criminals? I couldn't figure it out, because I didn't know enough about this whole movement, this Jacobite thing. And so, which is dumb because I'm a Stuart, like I'm the line of Stuart directly. And so, that is literally like 2 up from my grandma, like on paternal, like line right there.
And so what you're saying is so,
right.
And because
right.
Like, you are, oh my God, you're speaking out and you're one of.
And I didn't know I was one of them. And it goes clear up to the Medicis and the Orleans and these really important families. And what happened was I had already been podcasting like a year and a half. And we were talking like you and I about genealogy. And I said, oh yeah, mine's weird. And I mean, I knew about some names like Medici. I knew that wasn't good, And I said, yeah, I'm related to these people and it's awful because I'm sad about it because generational curses, basically. Mm-hmm. He stopped me. He goes, whoa, you should be way more concerned than that because this is like super important. And I didn't understand the importance, not because I was dumb, just because I didn't care. I told you about my grandma. She's crazy into the genealogy and, she's running all around the country, getting pictures and microfilm. And I think she kind of burned me out because she's on this LDS mission for the church for genealogy. And I didn't care. I was like 20 something, having babies, very busy. I would go with her sometimes because I just like to be with her. She kind of put me to work. Like, I can't explain to you how much microfilm I did back in the just looking for things. And maybe that's what made me a good researcher. I don't know. Like
it's weird how you look back on some of the things that you might have been like, what, that was a waste of time, or like, what was I doing that? But then it's actually a part of your journey,
It really was. And my grandma was critical in my life because I became a ward of the court at about 12 and she took custody of me. So, she was in essence a parent to me and she was very young. So they got married at 14 and 16 and they had 4 kids before 19. So
wow.
they became grandparents of me, which I'm the oldest granddaughter at I think they were young 30s. I mean, it was, yeah. My mom was 19. And so my grandma was 16 when she had her. So there you go. Like really young. So I can't even imagine, but that's not uncommon here. I got married at 17 to my first husband who was 25. And people always say, oh, you must have been pregnant or no, but just stupid, just so dumb. And I just didn't want to make a mistake, because I knew I was developing feelings that, are going to have me have a very bad mistake. And those mistakes are next to murder in the Mormon church. So I didn't want to do that. I just didn't even know this guy like 90 days. It was so, but we did make it 10 years. I'm no quitter, but once he got a girlfriend too many times and then ended up on drugs a whole lot. I just couldn't deal with it because it was unhealthy for my kids, or I probably would have stayed. Like, honestly.
Sometimes it's got to reach rock bottom before you get out, you know?
Yeah, it was affecting the kids. And that's the part where you stop and say, you know, this is getting gross now. And so, you know, it wasn't a big thing to me to go look at this genealogy, but I do remember my grandma being so jazzed up, like when all of the stuff came out and the movie came out with Tom Hanks. Oh, why can't I think of it right now? The big controversial one with the Catholics. Oh, why can't I think of that right now?
Is it Tom Hanks or is it another?
I think he's in it too. Yeah, I think it's Tom Hanks. I'll think of it in a minute. And I'm sure people out there are just freaking out because they're like, "Well," but you do this sometimes. You have little lapses because your brain's full of other things. But when this movie came out, she was on me, and everybody in Utah was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so important." Da, 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 da. And I just remember thinking, this is boring. Like, I remember being busy, not wanting to go. I was in school. I mean, she kind of pushed it. I fell asleep. And the Holy Blood, Holy Grail. That's the movie.
Yes. Yeah. That's what you meant.
And so I just couldn't get it. I didn't care enough to listen, but I think you still do, right? Like, little things get in your brain and you're like, oh yeah, I remember she told me about this. And I did end up with her genealogy books. And so that became invaluable.
So how did that happen? You kind of like,
she passed.
No. Yeah. Then, like, take them, or were they given to you, or were like, how did that happen?
My cousin was like, he's a guy, and it was me and him taking care of stuff. And he's like, I'm not going to do anything. You want this stuff? Cause I don't know. Yeah. And I was like, okay, yeah. And so he just gave them to me because it's kind of a pain. And a lot is computerized now. And she's a big part of that, as well as apparently jail inmates. As I mentioned, I've had people write in that said, oh yeah, I earned such and such cents an hour inputting this stuff in county. And I thought, what?
This part is insane to me.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, okay, whoa, okay.
You hear about free or cheap labor through the jails in the United States, but like doing religious genealogy, getting paid to do that? I mean, what?
Inputting names. And so I'm like, is my mute button working okay when I cough? Is it muting?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Just making sure, because the issues today.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff was verified. Like, this isn't my grandma reading some book and being like, I'm going to put in there that I'm related to this king of whatever. And, you know, no, it's not like that. Like, they go and verify. So she's traveling all over, verifying headstones, taking pictures. I remember thinking, ew, you're so morbid. Why are we taking pictures of this? You know, I didn't like death anyway, like that. Like, I'm like, shut the coffin and put them in the ground. Stop looking at people. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It bothered me because I knew the spirit is like who we really are.
LDS has a huge attachment to like the afterlife and death and baptism with the people who have passed. And
yes, necromancy all day long. You are 100% correct, because this is the point of their genealogy. Like, people say, oh, Mormons are obsessed with genealogy. Yes. But do you understand why? The why is the part, right? It's necromancy, and people don't understand. They're like, no, that's talking to the dead. I'm like, well, is it, or is it communing with the dead? And are you communing when you take on somebody's name as a proxy? You are that person. You're giving that of your own free will, you know, when you do that. So I don't know, but I do know once I broke away from everything, all that stuff, it changed my life, not only on the inside, but like, I'd had cancer. I was always getting sick. I'd had all these problems. Like, it wasn't one thing, it was 100 things. And once I got away from it, my life changed. And I was like, wow, this is wild, you know, like, and the feeling like this lightness, right, of my life. And so, I mean, all I can say is that's my experience on that. But I can tell you, like, this stuff is so important when we get to these genealogies, because they don't just mamby-pamby put stuff in there. That's not how it works. And they got a lot of these records, like we spoke about last time, through the Nazis. The Nazis they had to have this whole, work slip to go to work, and they had to prove their bloodlines 3 lines back to work. And because they had to prove that they didn't come from, and I quote, don't come at me, a Jewess. Okay. And they had to hang these up in their homes. And so that people could see them whenever. And so, this was critical for the Nazis to do what they were doing. And the Mormon church more than happily obliged. Why did they do that? Why did they oblige? Jehovah's Witnesses are being persecuted. A lot of the Christian movements were being persecuted at this time, but the Mormons weren't. Well, they'll tell you one of the articles of faith, also one of the articles of faith is to support Israel, but the other one is that we should obey the laws of the land if we're somewhere. So these people were like, well, we had to do the salute and we had to do the things because we were there. And that's their excuse. And that is the church's excuse, let alone they're baptizing people in and then they're sending them aid. And we're going to get even further into some other shady deals that they did later. But through this, they made a deal when the war was coming to kind of a close. And this deal was through somebody hugely important. And his name is Bill Gay. And he works for Howard Hughes. And he has all these little shell companies underneath Howard Hughes. And one of them is Hughes Dynamics. And Hughes Dynamics was this computer thing that he is starting up to enter in genealogy into a computer. And he wanted these little files, this, back in the olden days, if people remember, or even in school where you would mark things on these funny little cards that you knew they fed into a machine to read. And they're called the Hollerith, right? And so this Hollerith cards are what they would categorize the people taken, we'll say Jews that were taken, right, at the time. And they would put in all of their information as they would come through. And these cards after the war went to the CIA and they wanted them. The Mormon church was like drooling for these, but everybody had to agree. And one of the main people that owned these cards, because they made the cards and the machine that makes everything work, was IBM. And IBM and Bill Gates has a funny tie to the Mormons. And I forgot to mention this last time, but whenever you want to look at something, and we're going to talk about financials here soon, you want to look at their stock profile. Like, where are they putting their money? Because they have a lot of money. Yeah. They hide it, but they have it, right? The Enzyme Peak scandal, we'll tell people all about that. But, we look at this stuff and we say, okay, their number one portfolio holding is Bill Gates. And so Microsoft and all of the other things, Alphabet, all of the main, Amazon, Elon Musk, all of that. Okay. Through Tesla. So they'll say, oh, well, they're just savvy. Maybe so. But also they're related through the Gates because Joseph's maternal grandmother is this woman named Lydia Gates. And if you put in, is Joseph Smith related to Bill Gates? It will say, oh, no. Nope. Look again. Well, don't do it that way. Go find out who Lydia's father was. It was Daniel Deacon Gates, and he's important. So important, in fact, that they just can't help themselves to say Bill Gates is definitely related to Daniel Deacon Gates. And that is like his grandma's dad. So direct, not his fifth cousin 10 times removed. None of that. No. This is direct to the Gates line. And, everybody looks at the dad of Bill Gates, but nobody looks at his mom. And she sat on the board of IBM and had a say so in all of this at this time. So there's so long.
She was the bigger person in the Planned Parenthood thing too. I mean, when it comes to
the dad.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah. I think it was his dad that was super involved in that in the eugenics movement, but that is huge also in Utah. Yeah. So, and people don't know that. This started so long ago that we are a history with amnesia. We have no idea. And they can get away with so much because of this, really. If it wasn't for books, which is why everything's on Kindle now, right? Because Kindle is what? It's kindling. You can set it on fire.
Yeah. Well, we have a huge VHS collection because we're like, now they're putting extra chemtrails in the skies with with movies and stuff on Netflix and Amazon. It's like, we want the original thing just in case.
Yes, unadulterated.
Our basements, people would think that we were crazy. But we're doing it. And we also do it just so, like, we turn the Wi-Fi off at night. And if our kids are going to watch anything, we put on a VHS for them just because we're like, it's a little bit less blue light, whatever. But yeah, I mean, we keep all that original stuff for that reason.
Yes. And we have a huge CD and DVD collection for the same thing. And also because you never know, maybe someday we're not going to have streaming, right? But they do take away movies all the time. They do.
Yeah, exactly.
Go try and find Robin Williams Toys movie. It's go try and find it. Like, it's not
right.
there.
Right.
Why? I don't know. Like, I didn't look into the why, but I know it's gone, and so some of this stuff, they just Mandela, I don't even know, I don't know why, but
yeah.
I do know that, Joseph Smith is a lot more important than people make him out to be because, so the Macks, his mother is Lucy Mack Smith, and the Macks are hugely important too. And these people that got married were matched. I mean, they kind of had to. And so we've got the Topsfield, Massachusetts guys that are involved in the Inquisition over there, and including the killing of Mary Easty, which is one of the most famous Salem witches because she was a big part of why they stopped, because she actually wrote a huge petition and sent it forward. And they finally started listening because it made actual sense. And she still died, which sucked. But I mean, she sat there and said, stop taking this information in that's baloney. But we also know that not everybody, but many people that were involved in that whole Inquisition situation were usually the people that were guilty. They were like, methinks she protests too much. Yeah. And, people don't know about the Smiths, but they go on to marry some of the most influential people that were involved in accusing people of being witches. Okay. So it goes on for 4 generations. Why? I don't know. That's weird. And we see it and they hide it. And why do they hide things? Well, it's just inconvenient, right? So it's easier to hide and slip underneath the surface to make a one world religion if you're not just out there. Because we know about Mormonism, but do we know about Lucy Mack's brother, Reverend Jason Mack, who took off, who was a huge part of, he was a religious seeker, a reverend, and he takes off. And even me with my crazy digging, wild nonsense, I cannot find much on him. I've found some, but not a lot. And so why are they obfuscating that? Why would they do that? Well, spiritualism comes out of what he was up to. And I have a very big lead, we'll say it that way, because it's a joke, on what happened with him, because I think he was a follower of the Philadelphia church and Jane Leeds. I do. And I think I have some really good information for that. So, they go on to form all these different branches with Mormonism, with spiritualism. They're infiltrating the Catholics, and we're going to get to that. But all of this stuff is very critical when we look backward, because they were already setting up the one world religion a long time ago at the creation of our country, really.
And Zion and Utah.
Absolutely. And the Jewish connection, where it's huge, because the Sykes family, they are very important people. In fact, the Sykes family are one of the first that were here, and that's Gershom Mendes Sykes. And anybody that will hear this name will recognize him. And he was a very influential rabbi. He was there at the inauguration of George Washington. He gave one of the first actual prayers over Thanksgiving. I mean, come on, guys. Why is his son giving Joseph Smith Hebrew lessons when he couldn't read or write English? Because that sounds perfectly normal.
Well, then it's like when people say our country is founded on Judeo-Christian values. Really? I mean, I think it might be something else. It might be a little Judeo, might be a little Christian on the surface, but it's Freemasonry, really, actually.
Yes, and secret societies. I always say one nation under Freemasonry because it's funny, you know?
Exactly.
Even George Washington, there are rumors out there that George Washington was actually replaced with the head of the Illuminati at one point. People don't know that. That's a rumor. That's crazy. That's crazy conspiracy. Nobody talks about that. I've never heard that before. I found it in a book, researching the Jacobites. And we know that the infiltration with the Illuminati was big, and they knew about it and they were talking about it. Thomas Jefferson definitely knew. In fact, I think he was 100% a part of that. But we know that the Illuminati didn't go away per se. It just stopped on the surface. Like nothing happened to them. Nobody died. Nothing was going on like that. He just went somewhere else and lived out his life in a castle. That's the story. That's it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, well, like we talked about last time when they kind of go underground when the public finds out about them, and then they morph and evolve into something else.
Change their names. Yeah. Change who they are and what they do. And, you know, JJ always talks about who's your daddy and what does he do? And I know Dana knows him. So I think it's funny, you know, I mean, but with Sykes, he was hugely influential and he's very important. But this is the part that nobody talks about. Yes, he was half actual Jewish person. That's, I guess I shouldn't say it like that, right? Sephardic Jew, and he was half Ashkenazi, but the wife was full Ashkenazi. And I only bring this up because they actually were ran out because they were part of the Portuguese Marranos that were the secret Jews, and they were like practicing witchcraft. And so Inquisition again, why do we have these Inquisition people constantly lining up? What is going on there? You know?
Well, and then because you're speaking about the Spanish Inquisition, correct?
This is in Portugal. Yeah, Portugal. Yes.
Portugal, Spanish, just Spain and Portugal.
Same. Yeah.
That's where a lot of the Rh negative bloodlines come from too.
And you know that my family connects, and absolutely they were all Rh negative, and I'm not. But it's very interesting how that occurred because back then there was nothing to save people. You know, my poor great grandma, she had to suffer 3 full-term miscarriages or demises, whichever way you want to put that. But back then they didn't even know the baby was gone. And so eventually it poisoned her blood enough that she was able to carry on and have a baby because it stopped attacking because it had infiltrated her system so long, like the baby was dead for weeks. And so when we look at this and the Goulds of Salem and all this stuff that we look at, like they are aligning even then with all of them are in trouble for the same thing. Joseph Smith is in trouble for witchcraft. They're in trouble for witchcraft. Like everybody's in trouble for witchcraft and they're all aligning. So that should tell us something, like really. And you know, it goes back to the very first, you hit on it because I heard a short of yours one time saying something about the Babylonian religion and Zoroastrianism. Absolutely. 100%. And if people would look into what they're doing before they do it, like the Mormon temple ceremonies, they would understand that. Yeah. Really.
Yeah.
And sad because we're a bunch of people that don't know what we're doing, but then they still have you do it. Why would they do that? Well, 2 reasons. It's really easy to slip in on a Thursday night for you're like woo-woo, whatever ceremony. If a bunch of other people are just slipping into to do normal stuff, they're the porch Mormons. That's what I call them because they're the coverage for the weird stuff happening at the top level. Do I think my neighbor who's nice as anything and bakes me cookies is some kooky lady? Yeah, I don't.
No, 95% of them are nice, good people and they're being used.
That's
every religion. Same with the right and the left. It's the same thing. Even with opposing views, at their core, I think that most of them are good people. It's just that they're being used by the system, you know?
Absolutely. And here's the thing. When they're using people in an occultic term, like it's bad enough we get used as it is by the government and by, you know, our jobs and everything, and we're oppressed in so many ways. But when you do it to somebody for their faith, that is demonic. I'm sorry.
It really is.
Yeah. And that's why I speak. Yeah. Because people say, you hate the Mormons so much, just leave them alone. Let them go do what they want. I'm like, because if you were the one that made it out on the Titanic and you got in the boat and it was fully empty, would you not go back and try, even if they were like kind of delirious and trying to take you down? Because if you ever find out about people that are drowning, they will do that to you, right? But I still would. I'd probably die because I'd probably keep doing it until I did get thrown overboard and I'd probably be, you know, not saved. But I don't know that I care that much. I like to live, but like if it meant like saving a kid, especially, I don't know. I just can't. I can't be a part of that. And they do all of this stuff for a reason because it pierces veils, right? People say magic doesn't work and it's woo-woo and stupid. So why didn't it go away?
Exactly.
Why didn't it go away? Yeah. So it has to mean something. At the end of the day, we know that it does. And people that don't want to acknowledge that, that's okay with me. But you have to acknowledge this. Lydia Gates, the maternal grandmother of Joseph Smith, is directly related to Bill Gates. Bill Gates is the number one landowner for farming in America. For farming. People will misquote me constantly. Farming. Okay, so who's number two? Only second is the Mormon Church. That's concerning when they align with money, with heritage, with ideals. We have to look at it, and this stuff goes into other factions. Like we get Stephen Mack, who the heck is he? Nobody talks about him. Well, Lucy Mack, right? We're talking about her, Joseph Smith's mother. That is her brother. And he was super wealthy. And guess what? He went on to settle Pontiac, Michigan. And he is the founder of that town. And not only was he the founder of that town, but he was involved in the Bank of Michigan scandal. Already we're getting involved with like problems here, like with banking. Okay.
And also Pontiac, Michigan, would that be connected to Pontiac, the car company too, like in technology? So we have this theme of maybe technology and
I wonder if there's an occult. I'm assuming by all means that there is an occult backing behind that. I think you're onto something there because they never do anything by accident.
Yeah.
And so, he goes on, there's this big issue with banking, but he's like a big deal. He's like he's on the territorial board and all these different things. He's like this big wig. Okay. And he's not broke. And all these things that they say of Joseph Smith's family. No, this guy, no, not. And his son goes on to found, and he's Stephen Mack Jr., Macktown in Rockton, Illinois. And that is going to be critical because Chicago and Illinois are all over the map when we talk about this stuff. But also we know that there's all this posterity of these people. And one of them, just for an example of what these people come to be. Okay. In 2025, just one, because I didn't have time to do like a whole tree. Okay. One of these people, Rear Admiral, same name, Stephen G. Mack, of the Navy, and he's currently in NATO. Okay, what is going on when we are looking at this? They have infiltrated it on every level, and everybody, I've never heard anybody else say this, and I found it on accident. Wow. Complete accident. So, when we're looking at this and these first families, people need to look backward. Even I'm such a dumb history nerd that even when we went like on a cruise and we went to Seattle, I saw this building and I said, what is that building right there? Because we were in some tour. It's a ghost tour. And my husband's like, quit asking him all this stuff. I'm like, no, there's something up with that building. It's almost like, I know. And that is weird, right? So I asked him and she said, I don't know, but you should go see it because it's really pretty in there. And the Queen of China gave them this really haunted, spooky chair. You could sit in it. I was like, I'm not doing that. And and the whole thing is lined with, what's the black obsidian. And as soon as they said that, knowing what I know, right?
What's his name?
Dr. John Dee. And John Dee is just critical for all of this stuff because if you've ever read about John Dee and angels, I postulate that's what Joseph was doing. And I am directly related. So I'm kind of this weird litmus test every time I find these weird people and I'll go see, am I related to these weird people? Yep. He's one of my great uncles. Why is he one of my great uncles when I'm some poor farmer's, down the line kid? I mean, I get that, like, okay, yeah, we helped come here and the Mormonism stuff, but like, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because the Mormons are supposed to be fringe, right? Like weirdo polygamists that are just weirdos.
I think
right?
that whole thing has been a front almost on purpose.
100%. It is. Because
yeah.
The first thing they do when they get here to Utah, they're running for their lives. They're going to go make the state of Deseret, aka Zion. And this is, what they're doing. But then what do? They contact the government to help them finish the railroad. Where was the railroad joined? The two railroads here in Utah at Promontory Point. Here. Why? And why were the Mormons actually working as slaves underneath Brigham Young? Because he never had them paid. He told Harriman and all them, don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. You guys don't have the money. It's okay. And all those poor people did not get anything. And they worked and were promised.
That's so messed up. And yet he's a religious figure.
Yep, exactly. And then we've got, the death of Joseph Smith, which I think Brigham Young had planned or had a part in at least. And we have James Strang, who goes off with Joseph Smith's other brother, and he goes to Wisconsin to start the Strangites, right?
Do you think that he was actually the rightful successor or not? Because we've actually had this conversation on my show, whether he was the legit one or... Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing that we know. His brother William went, followed Strang, and he has a letter. And he says he saw an angel and all these things. So did John Dees. So did Crowley. So did Jehovah's Witness guy. So did Muhammad. All these people, we should probably take some notes here because they all saw an angel and wrote a book. Every single one of them. Yeah. So did Strang. Strang says this, and he starts something called the Halcyon Illuminati. So he said the quiet part out loud, and I think that is no longer with us. That's why he's no longer with them back in the day, right? But who saves the people that kill him? Nobody talks about this. The Navy did.
Wow.
Yeah. They just happened to be there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's weird. And they just happened to be on this lake at this time, and they, save him and take them over. There's two of them. They take them over to the other side of the camp where they don't believe, Strang was anything but a cuckoo. And funny enough, what did they do? Oh, Big Pharma goes on to pull a funny one with that. They go on to name something called Halcyon or Halidol, and that is given to people as an antipsychotic. If you're crazy, you might get that pill. Isn't that funny though? So yeah, they do some little sneaky things all the time, and they name these things and they kind of have a little chuckle, didn't we get you?
Yeah, and then it carries on for generations, and people are like, "What? Where did this whole thing really actually start?" And you could say about pharma or the education system, or whatever you want. And it's then you find out that it was infiltrated in these weird ways.
100%. And when it starts really ramping up, not that it wasn't already infiltrated at the beginning, because I want to make it clear, at the very beginning, we've got the railroad involved, and the railroad is backed by basically the crown. When you pull that apart and see where they got the money from, and I mean, it is what it is. People can look it up. But we also have all these really old quotes in some of these old books about other people that were critical in Utah. And, like I said, we have the Brighamites and the Strangites and the Thisites, but very few people know about something called the Godbeites. Well, the Godbeites are really, really important because Godbey is this man that actually was Heber J. Grant's kind of godfather, okay? And he is responsible, Heber J. Grant, for bringing in the Federal Reserve. And Godbey was like his father. Remember that quote, because it'll come up again, time and time for infinity. But at this point, Godbey is very involved in all of these things. But one thing he's definitely involved in and gets excommunicated for is because he's a table tapper and an occultist. And so they throw him out of the church because he won't keep quiet about it. And he starts a mining company, wouldn't you know it? And today that mining company is still out there, Godbey Mining. So people can look that up. It's a very important mining company. Who else owns a mining company? Elon Musk and the Boring Company. That's where he met Jared Birchall, his number one money man, who is a Mormon. So this has been going on for a long, long time. And, part of this and the railroad construction and all these different things, and people oftentimes know about, the committee where there's these people that are supposedly running the world and they're the most important and And oftentimes they refer that there are 7 of them. And I find it really interesting that Godby was somebody that ran for mayor. He was very important as far as like up in the county and stuff at that time. And he's very involved with like Smoot and the senators and all these people, Bangerter, Bamberger, all of these names that are super important. Okay. And all of these railroads that are even more important. But they ran something called the Sevens. And I found that just fascinating. When we know that that goes on from here to there, and we know that there are these people that are supposedly running Utah at the time called the Sevens, that's a little concerning to me. That's a little concerning because nobody knows about it and nobody knows anything about it. And so this is what it says, that it did continue on. The Sevens became increasingly controversial. No one could join unless another one passed away. And through the Sevens organization and Wilson's patronage connections, Ernest Bamberger succeeded in the Republican senatorial nomination. They are controlling the actual Republicans through this group called the Sevens. And these Sevens do not necessarily align with the church sometimes because, yes, he was in it, but then he was out. And the same thing happens with Mariner Eccles. Later, he goes on and he's doing all this stuff. And Mariner Eccles, kind of says, my dad's little crazy schemes over there. I don't know if I want to be LDS, but he still stays aligned with the church constantly. Funny enough, he goes on to mentor somebody that he calls a son. Don't forget, we're going to hear this time and time again. And this man is David M. Kennedy. And David M. Kennedy is a treasure.
He's the connection between the Mormons and the Catholics.
He's huge. Yeah. He is the connection to not only the Mormons and the Catholics, but Sindona, or God's banker, is his best friend instead of his son. Maybe they were catching on, right? But his best friend, really, they talk about it. And, David M. Kennedy has ties to the Nazis relocating. That's in the CIA reading room. I don't just throw stuff out there. She can tell you, I am extremely researched because people will come after me, and plus I don't want to throw things out there that I don't, I don't know, because it's weird. So, I don't have to make anything up this is, I could, like we said, we could do this for eternity and it would still,
seriously.
You don't have to make anything up. It's great. So, he's tied to all these banks in Switzerland. He's tied to all of these people in the UN. He's tied to Germany. And also during this time frame, he is sort of in the church, but sort of not. And we know about this thing that they really hid called the Council of 50. And everybody knows about the Quorum of 70, but very few people know about the Council of 50. And this was something organized by Joseph Smith himself. And in fact, it is not all Mormon people that are on this. It's kind of to run.
I've never heard about this.
Oh, this is fascinating. So the Order of Enoch is kind of a communistic idea of, Joseph Smith. And he wanted everybody to turn in all of their things, and then they would allocate them out, and everything goes underneath the prophet. So this is why when Warren Jeffs fell, it was so devastating because everything is in the prophet's name. So they were able to seize everything, the whole town, everything. And you can live on the land and you can build a house there, but they definitely own it, period. And that's why they can kick people out so easy, because my sister's ex-husband was Warren Jeffs' nephew, and he lived there. And he was kicked out, and he said, they can tell you to leave at any time and you have to leave. You paid for the house, you paid for the materials, but you don't get to keep it because it's not your land.
Wow.
So yeah, they really keep their thumb on people. And Joseph Smith was trying to kick this off. Everybody always says, oh, anti-communism, anti-communism, anti-communism. But is it? I don't know.
Usually one extreme or the other, they end up meeting somewhere. It might appear to be the opposite, but actually at the end of the day, it's the same thing. It's like the right and the left. I mean, really, if you peel back the
exactly.
maybe on the surface, they might have some differences, but actually it's the same thing.
It's no difference at all. And the Council of 50 are these people that get to decide what is best and how to proceed, and sometimes how to do some dirty deals that the church doesn't necessarily want their hands dirty with, you know? Mm-hmm. And so it works out for them. Of course, they say it's been taken away and, oh, that's crazy talk. They don't have that anymore. Really? Okay. I think they call it the Council of Foreign Relations now. I don't know. But really, yeah, but really. Yeah. And so when you look at these people and you see how they align, like I said, Michelle Sindona is God's banker. That is his nickname. He is completely aligned with the Vatican, 110%. And we see them pursuing doing the first like overseas temple. And where do they put it? Switzerland. Why would they do that? Why did they choose Switzerland? Well, it has railways. We've already talked about railroads a couple times now. Railways going in at all points, right? And this is all cited, by the way, in Mother Jones's There Will Be Done. That's the article you guys want to look for. So I just want to put that out there. So this isn't just nonsense, and you can go see this. And this kind of becomes, they even nicknamed it the UN of Europe for this temple stuff. And so it's weird.
There are major UN ties to LDS too.
Oh, 100%. And these ones are just hidden, right? Yeah. This is just like the hidden part. And we see this being taken over, you know, through what? Railroads, through mining. You know, we've got Bingham Canyon Mine out here. Bingham Canyon Mine is Kennecott. Kennecott goes into what? Rio Tinto. Rio Tinto is now controlled by the Crown and has been. They've been controlling it ever since the 1880s. Godby and his mining, his silver mines, he sold to the Crown. It's in this book. And so, you know, we can look at all this stuff. Like, how much of America does the Crown have control over? Like, really?
We had that conversation with Dana Ratting Jules a little bit last episode with the Candace Owens ties to
Lord Farmer.
Yes. And whatnot, you know. Yeah.
Oh, yes. And Rio Tinto has been in control of a lot of this stuff through Standard Oil, through David M. Kennedy as well. Like, they're all working together. And the one person that David M. Kennedy is super chummy with, just so people know, and also his banker is Onassis. And why does he matter? Because Aristotle Onassis, I have yet to drop my episode on him because I bit off so much more than I could chew. This right here is just the declassified CIA docs for Onassis.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have to make it make sense before I can like talk to somebody about it, because your brain is just like swimming in whoa. And all of this stuff that I'm telling you guys, it directs back to who? Who does Onassis go back to? Howard Hughes. And why does he matter? Because that is the hub of the Mormon mafia. And so what do? Who are the Mormon mafia? Well, Bill Gay, okay, he ends up taking over Howard Hughes Medical Institute, which is a shell corporation. And they put everything underneath of it, like even aircraft and everything that shouldn't have been under that. Like, that's weird, you know? And the IRS told him so. They're like, no, that's weird. And guess who pushed it through? Nixon. Why is Nixon important? Well, here comes David M. Kennedy again. What did David M. Kennedy do for Nixon? He worked under Nixon. He was completely under Nixon. He was on his crew. So at this time that he's on the crew, they're trying to go to the petrodollar. This is the time frame, okay? And eventually there must have been some issue. I don't know what the issue was, and I would love to find out. I've got to figure it out, but I dare say it's probably about what I'm talking about right now. And they want to get away from goldbacks, which has also been linked to JFK. We know, you know, he was not wanting to do that. And all of a sudden, Nixon fires David M. Kennedy. And then what happens to Nixon? Watergate. And who's involved in Watergate? Bob Bennett. Bob Bennett's over the Mullen Company, and he's directly working for Howard Hughes and part of the Mormon Mafia. He is a senator in Utah.
This is probably the most, if somebody's not familiar with the Mormon connection to our government and how much of a stranglehold they have, this is a really good example of where it came in pretty hard.
Oh, they sold out at World War II, and really you can see it all over the place. And they also aligned with a lot of Hitler's theology, because remember, Black people could not hold the priesthood until 1978. And all of these people, including like Ezra Taft Benson, and there's a few others there, like John Birchers, they're in Rotary. Like, well, come on. I mean, they definitely know about the Great White Brotherhood, you know. They're definitely aligning with that under Freemasonry anyways, you know. And so we see all this stuff, and you have to know, not only are they infiltrating it on one level, but David M. Kennedy's wife, super interesting. He marries the Bingham Canyon Mine people. Yeah, that Bingham. Yeah, that's who he marries. Yeah. So he marries into that family, and he becomes the president of Continental Bank. And in this banking stuff, you have to understand, like, let alone with like Kennecott just openly having it out that, you know, they have their old logo is the Bavarian Illuminati sign. That's fun. Whatever. Lord Farmer, what's his nickname? Lord Copper. What is Bingham Canyon Mine known for? It's Kennecott Copper Mine. Want to bet there's some big stuff there that I haven't found yet? Yeah. I'm saying.
Well, I think that's, we kind of touched on it a little bit before, but I think a lot of this Venezuela stuff has to do with 100%. Mining and ley lines and AI and all that stuff. They're making
100%.
It's like, nah, I don't think so. I think
100. Yes, mining. I think you're right. I think it's mining, because even David M. Kennedy was involved with Asia and uranium mining. And then we get into other people that are involved in this, you know, like the Boring Company and all these different companies, that the Godbees, you know, they're involved in mining. All of these people are either in railroad or whatever, you know, like mining, railroad, sugar company, like all this stuff goes right back to the church. Okay. And David M. Kennedy is connected specifically with all of his shenanigans and actually gets in trouble, okay, to Opus Dei. And when we're talking on that level and you already have Freemasonry involved, I'm sorry, but the Romney's brother is a Knight of St. George, and I've already found it. And so they could say it's not the right one. They'll say that. I already posted it on my ex a while ago. He like, okay, whatever, you know. And David M. Kennedy's aligning with Asia. So what do we have out there, right? We have the Green Dragon Society, right? And all these different societies that, you know, if you're a brother of one, they're going to talk to you differently than if you're just like some guy or some church guy, you know? And to your point, El Salvador, Cleon Skousen's grandson or nephew, I think is his nephew, was one of the very first missionaries to ever enter into El Salvador. And where were the Mormon church actually getting in trouble from the three-letter agencies? And this goes back to the current prophet, you know, Dallin H. Oaks. He gets fired for this because he's at BYU because they're recruiting too much and they got caught. But where was Dallin H. Oaks going to college at and actually teaching at for quite a while? Chicago. And sorry to say, when we've got a pope from Chicago and a prophet with Chicago ties, that really makes me nervous.
That is a really big connection, I think, right now with the one world religion. That connection, I don't know why, but something like my internal alarm system goes like ringing.
Terrifying.
Something there.
Terrifying. I'm with you, because we've seen this escalation lately. Like, you know, everything's kicking off in Israel. Trump's getting really kind of wild right now. Like all of this stuff that we see going on, even, you know, the accusations with Charlie Kirk and all that stuff. But we dang sure know, you know, there is alignment with the three-letter religion that we can't talk about, right? I mean, there's an alignment there that goes so deep, because also another person that aligns with this whole thing, I'm talking about the Mormon Mafia and E. Perry Thomas, is another guy named, funny enough, Mac. But don't worry, he's not related. I haven't found it yet. But he is a Jew. I can say that, I guess. I don't know what I can say. I mean, that's what he says he is. He says this, not me. And he's critical. He's critical actually in setting up all the banking banking in Nevada. And he and E. Perry Thomas, by the way, who was a CIA paratrooper in the war. Oh, they forgot to tell everybody that part. And, these guys are all controlling Nevada and kick the mob out. And they legitimize everything into a corporate structure that it is today. And E. Perry Thomas has some guy that he calls his son. And guess who that is? Steve Wynn. Yeah, that's Steve Wynn.
Oh, no way.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow.
And we have some wins in Elon Musk's line. It's very interesting. Of course, they say none of them are related, but we do know that, we have ties to Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel is definitely too friendly with Musk for my, comfort.
And also has LDS ancestry.
Yeah, 100%. Peter Thiel's great uncle was the first principal over at BYU. Well, where's he from though? Oh, he's from Germany. Oh, where's the Illuminati from? Oh, wait. Okay, wait. What about the Illuminati? What did they call? Do you know what they almost called them? This is a fun one. They almost called them the Perfectibilists. And the Perfectibilists is also known as the bees. And Utah is known as the Beehive State.
Yep.
Boy, I bet it's just an accident, though. I bet that had nothing to do with it.
Sure. And then Racine, Wisconsin, too. They seem to like that beehive theme.
Absolutely. And why is that? Because out in Wisconsin, we got the Strangs. So that was the Strangites. Then we got Illinois. A lot of people talk about Illinois. We got the Macs over there. And then we've got the West literally being taken over by the Mormons. Stanford was founded by a lady that they'll say she was a spiritualist and she's the mother of Stanford. I can't remember her name right now, but she literally funded the creation of Stanford. Oh, wait, she was, I think, a Huntington. I know she was from Mormon lineage, period. Mm-hmm. So, it's just everywhere here. And then even if you go up into Canada, we've got, remember, don't forget about that brother that took off that way. Nobody heard from him ever again. Like he wrote one more time and said, like, I'm alive. And that's all baloney. Come on now. No, he's got a bunch of kids, a group of kids out there, which is why I think polygamy is so important. It isn't really about the perversion. It's about making
hiding
bloodlines. Well, making bloodlines. Yeah. Because if you know anything about the Kingston line, and I don't know if you've touched on that, but the Kingstons are huge in government now, but yet they marry each other's sisters and cousins. Like they intermarry and keep their bloodlines pure. They're fundamentalists. And so even though they may look kind of normal, they would wear like a long sleeve shirt and a long neck. They might look quote unquote normal. They don't wear the polygamy dresses like Little House on the Prairie. Same ideals. And why are they called the Kingstons? The king's son, the king's sons, king's son. They keep their bloodline pure. And that goes back to the divine right to rule, that chart I showed you last time, where it says with this chart, it's the one royal line, and people can look this up. It used to be sold at Deseret Book, and it's one royal line, and it shows from Adam on all the way down, but Joseph Smith is in that lineage. And he used to always say that. And he actually says this. He says he is the bloodline of Mary Magdalene and Jesus Christ. He says so, making him perfect.
Do you think that he was placed religiously, or do you think that he just had these visions and then like became a religious leader? Because I would probably think that he was placed to be this religious.
Yeah. I think possibly, that's very Knights Templar. We know the Knights Templar are infiltrating up in Canada. We know they left their mark because a whole bunch of the native people, the Micmac tribe, is infiltrated also by the LDS, which is why I'm some very small percentage Micmac. And we know they took wives to make them more, quote, white and delightsome. But we know this is a very Templar-esque thing that's happening up there, okay? So the Templars are huge in this. And I don't doubt that they were huge. I mean, come on. Up in New York, the Freemasonry Lodge that Joseph Smith joined is in Canandaigua, okay? That's like right there. Like it's if Canada was infiltrated like I believe it was by the Knights Templar, then yeah, I think their bloodline went on. I think they were doing some stuff there. I think that this is a grand cover scheme, right, with the Catholics. And I just think that they just like to hide it, period. That's, they're hiding this line. That is what they were called to do. But if you look at what their like mark is, like the fleur-de-lis or the rose, you'll find all these things just right there on the temple. You'll find them time and time again. So I don't think they're hiding it all that much. And on top of it, I think that Joseph was intricate when he was born. Like, I think they already knew because he was born and they immediately were like, oh, he's a seer because he was born with the caul over his face. And so his dad went around like at birth yelling this all about the town. We know they're involved with witchcraft. We know his father's side was Universalists, which is also a whole rabbit trail. But we know some things about them that is very interesting. And actually, Joseph Smith has been quoted by saying he had done more for the religion even than Jesus Christ himself. How Christian of him. Right. And look, you could say anything you want. Here's the thing. You could say anything you want to say, but don't tell me you're a Christian when people are saying that. That's just not.
Well, that's that's the issue. I don't call myself anything, but that's the thing about LDS claiming that they're Christians. It's like, that's where it starts to get a little bit dicey and debatable.
We do have Joseph Smith saying he is a true descendant of Jesus Christ and one of his wives, Mary Magdalene, the Order of Zion, where he tried to establish in Zion and in Europe a number of times. One time in Munster, Germany, via the Anabaptists, and then also through the saints and Latter-day Saints, they taught that they could become God. The Order of Zion established the Order of the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. They established Freemasonry in England in the 18th century, and they established the Ephrata commune in Pennsylvania, and all of these male members being members of the Zionitic Brotherhood. So, and people will say this is not true. The Brotherhood of Zion. They'll say, no, none of this is true. Like, it's all garbage. It's silly, blah, blah, blah. But why does it still exist then? Why? I mean, it's a lot. That's pretty big, and then there's this Madog prince, okay, in Welsh. He's a Welsh prince that supposedly sailed to America in the 12th century, and they had wars with the Indians known as Madog. This pronunciation of Madog was pronounced, so I'm going to spell it Morawnyry, pronounced Moroni.
Oh, wow.
Just saying.
Yeah.
There may be a reason why, Joseph Smith is so looked at in a good way from the Freemasons. They won't say, no, he's cuckoo crazy. They kind of say, yeah, we get it. Right?
Do you think that it's because Mormonism is sort of an arm of Freemasonry, and it's like the public Freemasonry, and it's like we can use them as the public barrier where we hide behind the next layer kind of thing?
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing, when you get to the speech that he gave, the last very speech, the Mount Follett speech, I think it's the Follett speech is what it is, something like that. He said the quiet part out loud. He was talking too much about the Kabbalistic stuff and the Solomonic magic. That's what it was. It wasn't just folk magic. It was bigger than that. Okay. Mm-hmm. And when we look at all of this stuff and John Dee and these things that I'm telling you, and also his lineage, which they're super talking about now because the church themselves ran and got his DNA profile, which is the super rare DNA profile of an Irish king, the Niall of the Nine. And if people want to look that up, go ahead, but you'll look it up and find Joseph Smith popping up right there. And it shows his whole bloodline. Like, they went to the trouble of sending this one geneticist out to collect DNA at all of these family reunions for these people. Okay. So obviously it was super important to them. And I don't think it means nothing, right? Like these people, they are forming all of this stuff and keeping it so tight-lipped that literally, I mean, the Knights Templar was a whole thing. And people say, well, they were celibate, this and that. You might want to read it again because it said they didn't take wives, but it didn't say crap about them being celibate. And they definitely practiced sex magic. And sometimes they would leave their seed on purpose. And when we get into all of this weird stuff and this lineage, right? And Skull and Bones, which by the way, William Huntington Russell is Joseph Smith's fifth cousin, not 10 times removed, not whatever. No, his fifth cousin directly. And then we've got another, Skull and Bones being set up in Utah, and nowhere else have they ever done this, but they actually were sent there. It's not like some knockoff order. They were trying to be cool. No, the alma mater of Skull and Bones was sent there to set this up. Okay. This is an extension. That's what it is.
And then Allen Key is another one, right? That's sort of like
Allen Key is inside of the one here in Utah, the University of Utah. Scroll and Key is over at the Main in Yale. And guess what? Owl and Snake is at the University of Chicago, right when Dallin H. Oaks is there. But I can't find crap about who was in it because I guess they were smarter. But they did disband. They disbanded. Yeah. Like, sure, they disbanded. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. And, we have all these connections, like I said, through Permindex. Don't forget, I do a whole, I do the Permindex episode and then the 3 Mormon Mafia episodes, all about these ties and connections with how this branches out clear into JFK. I had no, I was just always like, yeah, it's a setup. Like, who cares? JFK. Yeah, whatever. I feel bad for his wife. I don't feel bad for her so much anymore because I did an episode on her too. And she's buddies with some people that are sketchy.
I'm sure.
But, oh yeah. And so, we see all this bleed like deeply into our government, deeply in, like, if people know who Kerry Thornley is on JFK, he's a Mormon, just FYI. Like all of these different Sirhan, the guy that said he actually went in, not Diamond, but the other hypnotist that said he, Dr. Joseph something. He said he hypnotized him, kind of bragged about it, went on a Mormon talk show on the radio like we're doing now. And he was dead within I think a day.
Wow.
He told all this stuff to these hookers. The hookers tried to tell the cops. The cops said, too bad. He died of a heart attack. And you know how they decided that? They walked in and said, he's fat. It looks like a heart attack. And I'm not kidding.
Oh my gosh.
And with Robert Kennedy, we know that somebody that worked for the Mormon church took him out. And that is Thane Eugene Caesar, because his actual autopsy says he was shot from behind, and it's all sketched out, and the doctor that did this, what did they do? Yamaguchi, they ruined his life. They fired him because he tried to take this case clear up to the president of the United States to have it reevaluated. And even RFK Jr. himself says Thane Eugene Caesar killed my father, because Sirhan was never behind RFK, ever, never. And so there was more bullets than there were able to be held in the gun, even though no one else discharged a gun, supposedly. And Thane Eugene Caesar just barely got that gig, as a security guard. But his real job, he worked for Skunk Works. Don't worry. He worked for Ben Rich. You know who Ben Rich is? He's a Mormon. He was over Skunk Works. And people say, you're just crazy. You just think it's the Mormons. I'm like,
no, what are your thoughts on, because what sent me down this Mormon rabbit hole was the Charlie Kirk shooting, because I was like, it didn't take much for me to say, even if he's not dead, they had to have something to do with this. So what are your thoughts on that? Yeah.
So this is my thoughts on Charlie. Charlie is something that happened that either it was planned. I don't know for sure. Like, that whole, is he dead? Is he not? I don't know. I don't know about that. But the way it's supposed to look, it was a message. And they do this sometimes, right? They'll put out weird little things. Like David M. Kennedy once was talking about some meth or something. And I don't know what that had to do with anything he was talking about. It was weird. Like it shouldn't have come up, but it did. And I think it's like this code that they're speaking that no one else knows. Right. So Charlie Kirk was saying he was afraid of Israel, right before he dies, and this is something that I do believe. I think, and I'm pretty sure there's this old faction of LDS Mormons that are very aligned with Israel. In fact, it's in our articles of faith to support Israel. When I was a little girl, and this was super traumatic for both me and my husband, we both remember it, had very different childhoods. If we ever got approached and backing, we would never deny, kind of like the Noah Hyde law stuff, and about getting our heads cut off. And they used to teach this in Sunday school, and they would say, you just have to do it, too bad. And I remember being completely flipped out about this.
I can't imagine I grew up Catholic, so it was like, we had some weird stuff too, but like that is extreme for a child.
Yes. Well, and what did we used to do as part of the Mormon ceremony? If we spoke like I'm speaking to you right now and spilled the secrets, we used to make this oath.
Which makes a lot of sense. Which is Masonic.
Yes, 110%. Yeah. And I think they're really more aligned with Martinism at the beginning. Now, obviously, this is all bled together, like Martinism and Scottish Freemasons. It's all together now. Joseph Smith was a Master Mason. He was a York Rite Mason. There was not really a big Scottish Rite influence at this time because they don't organize until like right before that. But the organizers of that is also very interesting. And I was studying that separately from what I was studying for us today. But it is very, very interesting. And it's called the 11 Gentlemen of Charleston. Okay. And 5 of the 11 are actually Jewish, and some of them link back to this Gershom that's a good friend of apparently Joseph Smith's family because they're teaching him Hebrew. I don't know why. But yeah.
That sounds like another really good episode that we could, or maybe I can help you with that research, because that sounds right up my alley.
I will definitely do that because it will be great. And I'm telling you guys, like when we look at this stuff, it's going to go into the Civil War. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to give you some teasers on that. It's going to go to Grant. It's just not Grant. Yeah. President. Right. Yeah. Grant. Ulysses, that's his name. I can't ever remember his name.
Yeah.
Ulysses S. Grant's, I think it's his wife or his sister, is besties with the lady at Stanford that's a Mormon. Well, she says she's not, but she's got a Mormon name. And I saw her genealogy. She was a Mormon. If she left, she left. But I'm just telling you, she was in that bloodline.
Wow.
So that's kind of weird. And then we get into something called the Alfalfa Club. And this is where once a year they get together to celebrate Robert E. Lee's birthday, which seems strange because why are we doing that? I thought we were taking down statues. And, we're upset about them.
Yeah.
But Obama went. That's weird.
Well, it's controlling both sides, I think.
Always. That is the key. What you just said is exactly what they're always doing and have always been doing. And whose playbook is that? Are we free from the crown?
Right.
I don't think so.
No.
Because if you know about the Bolshevik Revolution, you will know that the Rothschilds are often behind that, but their name means something. Their name means red shield. Okay. Blood shield.
Yep.
What does a shield do?
Protects you.
It protects people 100%. They aren't the one. They are protecting someone, and they are telling you with their name. They are protecting someone. And what does the red symbolize? Always blood.
Yeah. Blood. Yep.
It's very interesting. When I look up my family line and I look to the top and I say, why would this guy come be a weird farmer in Kaysville, Utah? And he's a steward, and he goes up to the house of Medici. What is he doing here? What is Peter Till's great uncle doing here? And why are they always aligning, right? In the beehive state, which is what they almost named the Illuminati, right? The perfectibilists, the bees. I'm telling you guys, and I hate to say this because it makes me actually sad to know that America fell long ago.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. And they hide behind religion. And that is the whore of Babylon. That right there is not just one, all. And with poor Charlie, if he did die or if he didn't die, you're a jerk. I don't know which one, but whatever happened there, they were showing their alignment because he was talking about Israel right before he died. But then who else was he talking about? Moments before. Yes.
Yeah, moments before.
And he was praising them. And here's the thing. There's always the new generation, okay? The old generation aligns with Israel. But the new generation are really Gnostic-y. They're very strange, okay?
Which is what I would say, the Zoroastrian, like the old.
They're letting it go. Yep.
Old thing, but mixed with the New Age thing. And then
they're letting it out. Yeah, they're letting it go.
And then there's that aspect of it. And that's where I see the one world religion going.
Yes.
So when I'm pulling from all of these places, it might sound like I'm nuts, but it's
no, I feel nuts every day.
Yeah.
The first time I went down the JFK Nazi spiritualist lady, all this weird stuff, right? Like I went down this rabbit hole on accident and my husband saw me and he goes, I thought you were just doing research. And I said, yeah, I did. And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, nope. And he's like, okay, should I even ask? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, what is it? And I said, it's all of them. And he said, well, what do you mean? And I said, it's everyone. Mm-hmm. And not the normal people. That's not what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, the elect, the elite.
Yes.
We didn't get away. And I think there were people sounding the alarm. In fact, I know they did because I bought this book called In a Sunlit Land. And it's this book from John A. Witso, and LDS Abuse also talks about this. And he's the reason I bought the book. So I always like to give credit, and he talks great on X. He's really good. If you can get him to come too, he would be great.
Yes,
he would be amazing.
Yes.
And so he's really smart and well read, and he's a data guy. And he told me, he said something about them having a conspiracy in Utah. And I thought, I'm going to go find this stupid book. And it's really funny because people always say, how do you find all these books? Because you ought to see these bookstores. I mean, it's just shelves for days. And I said, I pray about it. And I turned around and there was that dumb book.
I just got chills. I just got chills.
And I said, okay. And I grabbed it. And, this is why I will never, ever quit what I'm doing, because I didn't want to do this. This is not, I'm a nurse and I'm not a dumb nurse. I didn't do the thing. I saw that for a mile away. But yeah, I believe people should have autonomy. And I believe people should be protected. And I believe people should have knowledge of things beforehand. If it's magic, if it's religion, if you want to go be Harry Potter at home, if you're not hurting animals or people, or if they're people that are over 18 and they want that, whatever, but like not people that are not consenting. Yeah. I just think that's so messed up. And I was just really led to this. And I remember thinking, because I was praying, and I was going through the worst time of my life. Like really, I'd lost my brother, my daughter estranged from me. Like everything was just so much. And I just thought, I said, God, if you'll help me, I'll do anything. And then I get this feeling I'm supposed to do a podcast. And I was like,
Yeah, it's funny how when you ask for help, sometimes you end up having to do more work.
I thought, this is crazy. And I even said to him, like, think again, because I know like 4 people, and at least two of the 4 people do not like me, but they love me. But like, I don't know who you want me to talk to. I was feeling very down about even who I was or anything about myself. Like it would not have been a time I would have done that. I felt very low in life, and God was like, no, I really think you'll do good. And I still didn't do it. And I all of a sudden heard this one podcaster and I thought, I'm going to call in about this and I'm going to say this thing, blah, blah. And I left a message and he actually answered me. And I thought, oh, wow. I was all like starstruck. You know how you are, like when you now it wouldn't have been that way.
Yeah.
It meant a lot to me that he sent that back. And I thought, wow. And he goes, just come on. And I thought, what? And he goes, hey, aren't you a Mormon? You're in Utah, right? And I was
that's all you needed was that moment, because without that moment, you might not be here.
I wouldn't have been, because I'll tell you guys, I'm almost 50.
Yeah.
I had a floppy disk. I did not know how to run computers. I played the Oregon Trail. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Oh my gosh. It was so bad. And I cried because my first 7 episodes I did on iMovie. I did not know what I was doing. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like I didn't.
That's how we all kind of start. Yeah. I mean,
I just want my creative control. And so I don't, even if it sucks or something's wrong with an episode, like it is what it is, because I don't send them out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what happened. Next thing you know, 3 episodes later, there we are.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Who knows?
Well, where do you see all this going? I mean, where do you see all of what you know about the LDS stuff? Where do you see this all headed?
I think this has infiltrated on every level. Like I said, Canada, El Salvador, the Romneys went to Mexico. We got New Zealand involved. We've got Switzerland involved. We got England. I mean, I could just keep going forever. They took over Hawaii, married into the royal family. That's another whole episode. And it's very scary. Okay. But we know one thing. We obviously matter. Okay. Because otherwise they would have just whacked us all by now, like especially me, you know?
Yeah.
So they have something that they need from us. I believe it's energy.
Well, I think it's energy. And I also think that the true alternative, they have to keep an eye on it because they know it's always going to be there. So they have to see what's happening so they can steal from us. You know? Yeah.
Yep. They want to make you fat, checked out, alone, sad, and addicted. And that is how my brother died. Okay. So this is why I speak about all of these things. I'm not saying you might never need medicine. I do a lot of shows on medical stuff with my friend Janet, Deplorable Nation. And I always tell people, like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, don't be a slave to anything. I don't care if it's sugar or coffee or whatever the case may be. You need to get yourself in check enough that you can be okay if it was all pulled away tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, video games, your phone, what creative stuff is inside of you that you never knew? Because I never knew I could do this. Never.
Mm-hmm.
And it's God led, you know, we got to align ourselves with our creator and he will lead you and bless your life in ways that this morning I got this message from a person, and I'll leave it anonymous, but this is the main thing that keeps me going because I get a lot of persecution in this, not just from where I live, but from podcasters, which sucks because
it's par for the course. We all get it one way or another. You sign yourself up for this, you know what I mean?
Yep. And I'm not owned. I'm a freelancer. So it gets weird, but I still want to work with people, you know? Yeah. But this is something that I got this morning, and she or he talked about, I'm unsure as to how or why your show popped up, maybe because I'm an ex-Mormon, it came out, but I watched this episode right before Christmas, and then I didn't watch anything again because between that time and now I lost my boy the day after Christmas, just 1 month after he turned 24. He struggled his whole life and he was the most beautiful soul. I am again today trying to distract myself with unfiltered rise, and this is the episode. And what episode this person is talking about is one where 3 of us came on unknowing that we had all lost our brothers to an overdose, all of them. Wow. God will align things for you, but not just for yourself. You cannot keep your talents and just hide them. He'll be upset. Like we have to, even if it's hard, even if you want to be the crazy lady from Utah that everyone hates, like whatever, you know.
Well, I would say the truth is God. That's God's way of communicating is the truth. And 100. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if, you know, it's difficult and you get stones thrown at you, you still have to do it.
100%. Well, you don't, Yeah, you don't have to, but like you won't have your life as blessed, right? You did the same thing. I'm sure people give you a ton of crap. Like, come on, but at the end of the day, maybe I'm just some crazy ex-Mormon that's bitter, and maybe you're just some crazy ex-star that's bitter, and we're just the bitter patrol over here, right?
I'm fine if people just think I'm bitter. That's totally whatever.
But it's actually not, because your story helps people. And that's the thing, is when we have something so drastic happen to us, which is why I'm completely unfiltered and tell my stories, because I believe that everything that happens to us can help somebody else.
Me too.
It's not just about you. Like, get out of your own way.
No, it's not about you at all. And everybody has flaws. So just put them out. Who cares? Just lay it out there.
Yep.
That's my theory.
Serve the nuts on a platter. That's what I say. Like, what do you do with it anyways? What are you going to do about it? Yeah. So what? What? So I am seeing that this is going to be a Luciferian versus us, and possibly Malachian alignment with the Luciferians. I don't know, against us.
You know the difference too when you see that there's a difference, because a lot of people, especially a lot of Christians, get it confused that it's one and the same. And that annoys me so much, because it's like, that's actually a huge blind spot for people right now, is like, no, there's actually two sides of evil that you think it's all one, but it's actually two, like two main ones.
Yes. And the Luciferians will present as the nicest people ever. Yeah. And I always remind people this, Ted Bundy was a Mormon. I don't know if you knew that, but he was. And he was charming, and the neighbors never had a problem with him, and he didn't yell and scream, and he wasn't a high emotion, and he was very monotone and calming. And they teach them this weird sing-songy gross voice. And I hate it, because you can see it when you go watch their conference or whatever. Yeah. And that's why they're so good at the CIA and stuff. Right. But I'm not like that. And I never was. I'm all over the place. I'm a spaz. I have ADHD. I've got tons of my own problems in my life. And here I am. So whatever, you can do that. You can do big things. You can do so much. And also, your pain doesn't have to own you, and neither does religion. You can find God yourself.
I totally agree. 100%. Well, this conversation has been amazing, and I'm glad that I think we got our recording.
I hope so. It seems good. Yes.
It'll work good. And we'll get you back again soon for sure, because awesome. I know you keep researching, going, and it's amazing, because even more than I do about this stuff. And I feel like in the alternative media, I've kind of been a figure to be like, hey, let's pay attention more to the religion stuff. So to get people who have been directly involved with these religious organizations is a key part of
100%. And we have to band together. Like, our energy matters. Stop letting them hurt you. Stop it. Protect yourself, protect your family, pray for others, put on the armor of God each day, and know what that means, and let your light come out. Like, you cannot stifle everything and be this monotone person that they want you to be. That's why they want you to be addicted to things or whatever, because it makes you more compliant. Because we're not naturally born that way. You're supposed to cry and yell. And I hate to tell you, people, like, yelling too. Like, anger is emotion. It's all there. I'm not saying just rampantly, but Yeah.
Well, anger is technically a higher vibration than sadness. So to be angry is better than to be sad.
Yes.
I kind of jump anger pretty quick.
I do too. Maybe that's why we get along so well. Even if I'm sad, I'm mad. I'm mad sad.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy. But it gives you energy to do things about it, right? If you're mad about something, you just might start a revolution. And so, not that we would do that. We would never do that. But hey, we can protect ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's my advice.
Thank you again.
Yeah, everybody can find me at the Unfiltered Rise, Heidi Luv, everywhere podcasts are served, and I'm happy to come back. I have the best time talking to you. So,
likewise, you are amazing. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.